Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arrows Up podcast. This is Jeremy coming to you on this edition of the pod where we're going to get into all things fighting and from boxing, and then David's going to walk us through how to judge an MMA fight, which is something that I struggle with because I don't know what I'm looking at when I'm watching the UFC. So we're gonna do all that. I have David, I have Adrian, and we're gonna get into it. Let's start with Munhia. Munhia fights tomorrow. I have done not a full 180. I've done 100 degree turn on him. I haven't done the full 80 because I just want to see him do it again against a stiffer competition. He's fighting a guy who's not so great tomorrow night. So I won't be giving him 180 tomorrow, unless he shows the same thing he showed against Gabe Rosado, which then it might be different. But he's fighting Demetrius Ballard in Tijuana, so that should be exciting. You guys have any thoughts on that fight?
Not really. I was surprised that he was fighting because the last time we did a pod, we're like, are there any fights coming up? And I think we only had the
Chocolatito at the time.
At the time, right? And then Estrada got COVID, so now, and then I was like, oh, well, yes, fighting like just in TJ of all places, isn't that like his home crowd, right? Isn't that where he's from?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, cool, good for him. But I didn't recognize the name, and I was like, all right, it must be a tune-up fight. So I hope he get like a big fight after this one. So with those middleweights, I kind of just I'm tired of all the noise. I just want them to fight each other.
Yeah.
Demetrius Andre just sitting there, Charlo.
Yeah, I wish that they would get in the ring, and we've beat this point to the ground, but I think that it's so important for them to do that, fight each other. One of them has to be crowned. I don't think Canelo's ever coming down to 160, at least not anytime soon. I think he goes to 160 once he's done, with pursuing everything he wants to pursue at the peak of his powers. So for them to wait on that, I was really hoping he would fight Munhia would fight Triple G, but all things are indicating Canelo's going to fight Triple G in September, and so I don't think Triple G is going to want a war before the Canelo fight. I'm sure he's going to fight some janitor again, and get ready for Canelo.
Payday.
Yeah. So that goes out the window, and maybe he fights Rosado again. That because that one was a good one, and I think Munhia won, but I think Rosado is a guaranteed good fight. Or even Jacobs fought. I thought he lost. He looked bad. He looked bad in that fight.
He's been looking bad, man.
Yeah.
Just like when he fought Rosado, I was like, I kind of had Rosado winning. Yeah, and the whole mix up with the cards, like with the ref, where they announced, I was like, damn, dude. So
yeah, it was super, super tricky. But that's Munhia fighting tomorrow night. Should be, I don't want to say it's gonna be a good fight because Demetrius he's okay. And if Munhia does his thing, it shouldn't go the distance. It should just be a showcase for him. But definitely we'll be watching. Let's get into the chisme that is boxing, and I think that's part of the fun of following this sport. Is not so much it's the fights and all that, but it's more so the chisme. The chisme is what keeps you engaged.
The scandals, all
that, exactly.
The treachery,
all the random YouTube videos. I think boxers are the only ones that you can have access to, and there's like random YouTube videos of boxers saying wild stuff, and I think it's the only sport where the athletes A don't care what they say, and B don't get in trouble. It's just you'll never find LeBron calling on a random YouTube video calling Kevin Durant a bum or whatever. It just doesn't happen. Let's start with Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia this week decided he was going to leave Eddie Reynoso. He was going to leave the Canelo camp because he feels it's time for him to have his own gym, for him to build his own legacy. I read that, I saw that, and I was just like, when was the last time this guy fought again? Like, what legacy are we talking about? What is he? What is he saying? Adrian, he's your boy. You
Nah,
were
I
on
mean,
the when I pushed back on him being carried on the crowd. Look, it's so fitting that the last time we saw this clown, he was being carried in a throne, and we haven't seen him since. He hasn't done anything since, and
Except talk.
yeah, except talk. So what did you think of that? Him leaving Eddie, and it's not, to me, it's not so much leaving a trainer because that happens all the time. To me, it's more so the reasoning why you're leaving a trainer. I get you want to change a trainer, change a philosophy, whatever, but you haven't fought in 2 years. We haven't seen you. We haven't seen. We've seen random, videos of you throwing punches or whatever, but we haven't seen you, and you're coming off a injury, a surgery to your hand. So the legacy thing to me made no sense because we have, like, your legacy is pretty much stopped. So what did you think of the move?
man, I mean, it's. I just laughed. It's ridiculous. I, I'm one to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't give up on people that quickly, but Ryan he left me no choice. I just had to turn. I'm like, man, you're dumb. This is a dumb move. You're 23 years old. You're barely fighting anybody. You're with like the best team in boxing right now. With the top, the best boxer in the world right now, and you're in his team, and you decide to leave when you haven't even really made a name for yourself in boxing. On Instagram, maybe, but in boxing, yeah, he hasn't done anything. And to leave to try to build your name it's like you want to tank, like you just want to go down. And yeah, it's sad to hear. And I know David's right now like laughing and he's loving it.
Bro, okay, so he
even
did a
before
whole
I heard,
180, man.
it was, yeah. David he messaged me and he said, "Hey, Ryan's got a fight." And even then, I was like, "Bro, he's gonna like twist his ankle or something, and he's not gonna fight."
Twist his neck.
He's gonna flake on the fight, and
He's gonna watch an episode of Euphoria and get sad.
yeah, he's gonna he's gonna have emotional damage.
Dang.
But no, it's ridiculous. You're too young to do that. He proved himself for how many years before he finally went on his own, and he has something to like show for it.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Canelo was 23 when he fought Floyd, right?
I think so, yeah.
Around
that time,
Ryan's now 23. And Oscar was 23 when he fought Chavez. So it's like, yeah, the whole brand legacy thing, it's like, you're just getting started, man. Like, you don't have much to stand on. Like,
Not only that, but Canelo and De La Hoya, they were fighting all the time when they were 20, when they were in that age, Yeah, his new trainer is Joe Goosen, and Joe Goosen's a good trainer. He's an offensive minded trainer. The only thing with Joe Goosen is he's an older guy. He does some boxing analyst type of work sometimes. For a guy so young like Ryan, who's switching trainers to Joe Goosen, who's a Hall of Fame trainer, I just would want somebody who's invested in the sport day in and day out, like an Eddie Reynoso, and it's not so much him leaving Eddie, it's the reason behind why you're leaving Eddie. If he was to go and go for, Garcia, for example, who's an everyday trainer day in and day out, he has his gym, the whole thing. I would get it. Maybe you want to try a different philosophy, maybe the language barrier, maybe you want somebody to train you in English, whatever. It's up to you. But this whole idea that you want to have your own thing, you want to build your own legacy, I don't know, that takes time. It takes time for you to even build up the equity for people to want to come fight with you, because that's what's going to take. Ryan Garcia doesn't have a gym right now. He's going to go to Joe Goosen's gym. and be under Joe Goosen's people. And at least with Canelo, or not with Canelo, with Eddie Reynoso, he was given the individual attention. He was given the time to develop, to learn. And I don't like that move for that reason, because at this age, in this part of his career, you need somebody who's invested in the sport day in and day out. You just you need it. It's why when guys go to like Freddie Roach now, to me, it's a head scratcher. Freddie Roach is not in a position where he's day in and day out. His body just can't do it. It's why Manny wanted to, he took a break. He left. And so I just think you need to, if I'm Ryan Garcia, I would have found somebody else, not Joe Goosen, who's an older man who's not that invested day in and day out in the sport and in the career of Ryan. But it also speaks of where Ryan is. I think Ryan is okay with being a celebrity and not necessarily a boxing icon, which Canelo and De La Hoya 23, all they wanted to be
was the best.
Yeah, in the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
Because obviously, there's all the mental health stuff, and with that it's tricky because mental health is a real thing, and so you never want to make light of someone's mental health. And you see it right now in basketball too with Ben Simmons, who quit on the Sixers, and he used the whole mental health, and magically he gets traded, and all of a sudden his mental health is pretty much cleared. He's no longer upset or depressed or anxiety filled. How much of the Ryan Garcia experience do you think will last under a different trainer? Because I feel like under Eddie Reynoso, he was willing to be patient with him. Do you guys think with another trainer he would have the same patience with some of the craziness that Ryan Garcia does?
You mean Joe Goosen? Like, will Joe be able to?
Because towards the end, you heard Canelo do that statement where he says he's wasting his talent. So even with Eddie Reynoso and that team, the antics were wearing thin. And I just wonder, like, with another trainer, an older trainer who's no nonsense type of trainer, I just wonder how much of this nonsense he's going to be able to pull before Joe Goosen is like, you know what, dude, like, go somewhere else, man. Because it wears thin. It wears people thin.
Well, so I think I read that they had worked together before previously, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Ryan was the star that he is now back then when they worked. So I think they're kind of standing on that fact. Yeah. I think they're gonna kind of stand on that fact that they have some chemistry in the past. I can't help but think it's kind of I don't know if Joe. I don't really know much about Joe. I read up about like who he trained. I know he trained Ariola in his fight against Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think that it's kind of like Ryan's ego was kind of bruised. I saw a response from his dad on Instagram where what he said, I don't know what the original person said, but Henry Garcia's response was like, he's like, we love Eddie and Canelo, like they're friends still, but we feel that Ryan just needs his own gym and needs to start making like his own decisions and this and that. And something that his dad had mentioned also was we want Ryan to be able to train when he wants to train and like at a certain. And I was just like, and I thought of when Canelo was saying like, "Do we need to remind this guy to train sometimes?" And I'm like, that's not a good look. And to kind of get into the weeds of like the Andy thing I mentioned before, where there are rumors that Andy's leaving. Is it a coincidence that both of the fighters in that camp that have discipline problems are on their way out? And I'm just like, maybe the Canelo way isn't for them, like the hardcore, kind of like the Patriots, like the Patriot way, as they say. It's like the Canelo way, the discipline. It might not be for everybody, and maybe for someone like Ryan, who, like you said, you put it nicely, you're like, he's fine with being a celebrity, and there's still kind of this question mark looming over: Are you going to be like a prize fighter, a championship caliber fighter? And I'm like, so I don't know, man. And like you said, Joe's an older guy. gonna go ahead and say it. You know, Boomer. I don't know if Boomers have the kind of patience for like that kind of, you know, that super lavish tech, you know, social media savvy modern day guy. I don't know if that's a good combo.
Well, especially in boxing, where boxing's all about the grind, you know, and you honing in on your craft. And I'm not surprised. I think I'm one of the few people, one of the few Mexican people that didn't jump on the train of Andy Ruiz. Part of it is I love Joshua, and I think I'm just gonna die on that hill, and I'm probably I'm gonna be wrong, and he's gonna fight Usyk, and he's gonna get beat, and I'm gonna find a way to find a redeeming quality. I'm just a loyal guy. What can I say? But but for me, Andy Ruiz, and you saw it, he wins the fight, and the dude comes out on like every show, every podcast you could think of, and he ballooned. The dude got super fat, and I think it's an excellent point where the two guys that are not about the grind can't stand what didn't last with Canelo.
Yeah.
But also, I just don't know where they go, because Chavez Jr. is going through the same thing. The dude has had so many trainers, and they've all kicked him away because at the end of the day, the guy is not about the work. And so I don't know how long this lasts. And Ryan has a better chance of making it than Andy, because he's younger, and he at least
Higher
has
ceiling.
a higher ceiling, but he has a crowd outside of boxing that people can watch, and you know, people like to watch him and whatnot. But I don't know how long I don't know what needs to happen in his life for him to focus on boxing. And maybe there's nothing. Maybe it's just the way it is with him, where he's made his money, he's a celebrity, he has endorsements, and maybe that's enough. And if he fights here and there, he becomes almost like the Jake Paul professional boxing, where he can sell fights and he's exciting to those that like him, but he's not really taking seriously in the boxing community. And it's just sad, because I wasn't a big fan of his antics, but he definitely has the talent. Yeah, he has the talent, and he wins the title, and all of a sudden he loses his mind, and it's sad, you know. And part of it, it's hard for me not to look back and blame Golden Boy and all the nonsense that De La Hoya is going through. And I think that there's a correlation between those two things. But he has a fight, right? He's fighting in April, supposedly.
Yeah.
As of now, he's fighting in April.
Yeah.
April 9th, I believe.
Are you guys expecting anything special? Or do you guys what Ryan do you guys think we're gonna get in April?
I mean, he might come out with a lot of energy, and I hope he does good, because he's young. You know, he's exciting to watch. But
yeah,
coming off of those 2 years, it's kind of scary to think like he might not do so well.
Yeah,
especially if he's having discipline issues, and it seems like he's really not about fighting, just more of his name and having fun, so, or being known in any way. So
yeah,
it's very iffy for me now, because I don't really expect much anymore.
Dang. I love how all the Ryan, well, at least the Ryan fans in my life, they're like all over the spectrum on how they feel about this. So, because Adrian was like, you know, supporting him, and now he's kind of like walking it back. He's like, I don't know, man. And then my brother the other day, we kind of got into it about him, and he was like, watch. He would put his finger on my face. He's like, watch. He's like, when Ryan like becomes like a world champion, like a legit world champion. Before he finished the sentence, I was like, I won't like him even then. I was like, even if he keeps winning, I was like, I still won't like the guy. I'll admit he can fight him, but I just don't like him. That's just the way it is, you know? And then he said, but watch, when he wins, he's like, I don't want you and German Adrian like hopping back. I was like, I'm not going to hop on. If he wins, I'll give him his flowers when he wins. But it's like, that's about it for me. You know, I'm not that invested. So he's still holding on. And then my buddy Trevor, shout out to Trevor. He's lost all hope, and he's like, yeah, I think he's gonna just like He's like, I think he's done, man. I don't know. And he was also like another like big supporter. So and although Adrian's walking it back, I kind of feel like Adrian's kind of on the fence. I think if he wins a fight, Adrian's gonna be like,
Adrian's ready to be sucked back in. He's
I could see it in his eyes. I could see it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that olive branch is just he's just waiting to extend it.
Yeah. They're gonna let him back in the clubhouse.
I know.
He's like, oh, let me go to the restroom. He's just in the restroom right now. I forgot something in my car. He's just gonna.
No, I'm hopeful. I'm not gonna lie. I'm hopeful. But,
there he goes.
But it's like, he's not about it. He hasn't shown that he's really about boxing. So that's what makes me like, no, you can't do that. Not this young. Not like you haven't even had that many fights.
Yeah.
So I think he's had 21 fights?
Yeah, 21, right? 21. Do you think if he wants to prove that he's all about it and wants to be a serious fighter and he fights in April, with as young as he is, I'm just like, dude, why can't you fight 2 more times this year? Do you think he fights 1 more time, like in the fall or something, and then? Because I kind of hate this trend of boxers just like modern day guys just fighting like once, twice a year, and they're chilling. I'm like, bro, Canelo fought like 10 times in a year when he was like 18, man, like 19, like really. So
it's hard to tell because
I know the politics play into it, like the whole.
Well, it's not only that, but it's the way success is viewed in boxing is different now. So back in the day, the Muhammad Ali days, and then you go into the Sugar Ray, Roberto Duran, like all those guys, success was based on fighting, how many fights you had, and so it was a very active time, and even up until like Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, it was based on the fighting, and then Tito Trinidad, De La Hoya, all those dudes. Shane Mosley was built on how many times you fought, and it was about fighting. And then we entered into the Mayweather era, and it stopped being about how many times you fought. It started being about how many pay-per-views you sell, and it became strictly about money and protecting the zero. And so even if you fought once a year or once every year and a half, as long as you were undefeated and as long as you were selling pay-per-views, that's all that mattered. So we entered into a different phase of boxing where guys started to kind of wait on fights. Yeah. So instead of I beat this guy, I beat that guy, okay, well the next logical guy is him, they would build it up. So Pacquiao and Mayweather for a long time were fighting the same dudes. What back to back? So Pacquiao fought Ricky Hatton, Mayweather fought Ricky Hatton. Pacquiao fought Miguel Cotto, Mayweather fought Miguel Cotto. And they were just picking and fight. And then, then you would get guys that Mayweather would duck, and we just have to call it what it is. Pacquiao would fought Margarito. Mayweather wanted no parts of Margarito. And it's well documented. He didn't want that. But it was all built on money. And so when Mayweather announced the Pacquiao fight, it was all built on the anticipation. We've been waiting for this fight, the whole thing. And then Canelo comes in, and Canelo did the same thing with Triple G. I love Canelo, but Canelo let that fight cook, let that anticipation of the fight cook a little bit. Where he could have fought him a lot earlier, he decided I'm just gonna let it boil. So that when I finally fight him, the anticipation is at all-time high. Now we are entering a season where it's all about the belts. Canelo's made about the belts, so now everybody's all about the belts. So nobody wants to fight anybody without belts. So with Garcia, I don't know, if he has the motivation to be all about the belts, where I think he's stuck in between two mentalities, where the belt is what's going to get him more money, get him more famous, but he also is one of I think the only boxer that's taken advantage of all the social media stuff. Where my sisters know of Ryan Garcia, not the fighter, but the guy who does the body challenge.
Or his drama.
Yeah, so
Baby
that's
drama.
yeah, exactly. So that's where
Baby.
that's where he's stuck in this middle ground that I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna pursue it because I don't know what Ryan Garcia thinks success is.
Mm.
And if it's belts, then yeah, I think we could see him become a champion. And I think that's where the conversation about Ryan gets really tricky because the super fans of Ryan Garcia think that guys like us don't like him as a fighter. And it has nothing to do with his fighting, it has everything to do with the sport, with how he handles himself, with how he trains or doesn't train. It's the whole thing with, Deontay Wilder, the same thing. Deontay Wilder has a lot of power, but no skills to support that power. So whenever you criticize Wilder for not developing any jab, not being able to box anybody, his crowd says, well, you're a hater because he could knock out anybody. Yeah, he can, but you have to build that power up. And I think with Garcia, it's the same thing. He's fast and he has power. Sure, but how many times a week is he in the gym?
Yeah.
Because I mean, anyone can make a TikTok video punching people in the stomach, and eventually it's gonna hurt. I may not have Garcia's power, but if I go around punching people in the stomach, eventually they're gonna go down because it's just science. So I don't know. I don't know what he defines as success, and that's what makes me not nervous, but that's what makes me skeptical about him in his career going forward because I could see him fighting a few more times, getting a belt, and then retiring. So I don't know if he fights again this year. I don't know. It's really hard. You would think so, right? You would think he would want to do fights
After
in
being,
April, fights in July, and then fights in September. I don't know.
yeah, after being gone that long, that's like the obvious thing to do. If you really want to like do what he's saying when
Hmm.
him switching, if he's really about that, then you're gonna fight.
Yeah.
You know, twice or maybe another three. You know. But do you think he would be what you can say like a bad influence to the young boxers right now that are just starting to train
Like bad for
and
the
they're what?
sport in general.
Yeah, yeah, being so wishy washy and if or you think he's just like is just it's gonna be ignored
I don't
or you
think
think it'll
so.
affect?
I don't think so. And it's not even a shot. I just don't think any young fighter is looking at him and being like, I want to be like him.
Hmm.
Like, I think everyone's looking at Canelo and being like, oh,
That yeah.
okay.
I think
So,
there might be a small percentage, a generation of kids that it kind of sucks that like Germ already mentioned them, but the way Ryan acts with all this stuff, and then you have someone like Jake Paul,
Yeah.
they're already associated just by the whole social. But the thing that I agree with Drum on is that it takes a special and a certain kind of person to be a fighter, and most guys that go into it, they come from like rough backgrounds and whatnot, and
yeah,
for lack of a better term, they're dogs. They're
Yeah.
animals. I'm just gonna
that's
say
all
they're
they
animals.
have.
Yeah. So like, have you guys heard of like Vito Melnicki? He's like a young pro. He's like 19. I think he's a welterweight. I follow him on Twitter, but I see a kid like him, and I'm like, young, good-looking kid, and I'm like, if he was really all about that social media life, he could totally turn himself into a Ryan. But most guys that
Mm.
go into boxing, they just want to hurt people for the most part. So I don't see a lot of kids going that route where they're like,
Yeah.
well, I want to make TikToks, and they're just like, you know what? Like, I want to be, and they want to compete. I want to be the best. They see Canelo, and they're like, that's what I want. I want to be like,
Yeah.
I want to be talked about when they bring up boxing, not when they bring up like social media drama and things like that. So
Yeah, no, because and it's also the influence of what you see. It's why Mayweather was so influential. As you know, as much as people didn't like Mayweather, Mayweather was all about the craft. That's all he was about. There's no. The interesting part about Mayweather is his work ethic was like second to none. The dude was always working. To this day, you look at Mayweather, and Mayweather looks like he's in fighting shape right
Yeah,
now.
he's in shape.
So it's one of those things. and Mayweather was always walking around at his weight, at his fight weight, which is unheard of. So his training camps were never about him cutting weight. They were usually about him just getting loose and getting prepared for the other guy. And so he was very influential because of the fighting. So people gravitated to, protecting the zero, selling a bunch of pay-per-views, acting crazy to drive more interest. And I think you see the influence of Canelo and what he's generating, where he left his promoter, he pretty much represents himself, and he can pick and choose when and where he fights with whomever he wants, making his own deals. And I think that is far more motivating and something that you want to replicate than, I don't know,
body shot challenges and
yeah,
all
because
the drama.
you haven't seen them, and you bring up a good point, David, because these guys, if you hear Canelo's story, the dude was selling ice cream.
Popsicles, yeah.
The dude that he was selling ice cream on the bus to get by. You hear Pacquiao's story. He had to fight to earn money for food. So the mentality is not, I'm fighting because I like the sport of boxing. I'm fighting because this is what's gotten me everything I have. And you need that mentality. It's why, Golovkin, he had a long time ago when HBO was doing boxing, they had a sit down interview with him, and he said, I'm boxing because I don't want to go back to Kazakhstan. I don't want to go back to how I used to live. This is far better than that. So I think that needs to, I don't know, obviously I'm not saying, Garcia's had a wonderful life, but he's definitely found different avenues to arrive at this, very similar economic state than those guys. And I don't know if he wants it enough to want to fight and say, you know what, I'm gonna make up for lost time. Book me for 4 fights. And I don't know if De La Hoya is that promoter to push him to do that. But it's sad. It's sad times in the Ryan Garcia fan club.
I bet Ryan's feeling good. I mean, I bet he
he's fine.
He's doing the right thing. Like,
Yeah, of course.
But for us, kind of looking from the outside, and we're just kind of like, are we sure he's heading in the right direction? So
let's do Lomachenko. Speaking of the opposite mindset of Ryan Garcia, Lomachenko wants he wants the belts. Obviously, he wanted Delfimo was never going to fight him again. Delfimo lost the belts to Cambosos. And Lomo came out this week and pretty much said, get me. He told Top Rank, his promoter, get me Cambosos. I don't care what I have to give up. I don't care the deal is. I don't care how much I get paid. Just give me a title shot. And I got super excited when I read that because you don't see that. Lomachenko is pretty much betting on himself if that were to happen, obviously. And he's betting on himself that he can regain the belts and regain all the money that he's potentially given up by getting all those belts back. What do you guys think about that move? Lomachenko at this stage in his career, would you do it or yeah?
He seems sure of himself, man. And I bet we've talked about this many times, but that fight with Delfimo, it kind of left us wanting a little more, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I bet he saw that fight with Teo and Cambosos, and he's like, I could beat this guy. He's like, I can't believe this guy beat Delfimo. I can't believe Delfimo put on that performance, but I can beat this guy. I bet he kind of smells like the blood in the water, so to speak. Because let's be honest, no one's sold on Cambosos being that guy. It's amazing what he did, but everybody's looking at him kind of like Andy, but not in the sense that he's lazy, but they're just like, good, man, you had a great night. Like, that might have been the best night of your life. And it's kind of sad.
Yes. No, it's perfect because as soon as he won, I'm like, this smells a lot like Andy Ruiz. This smells a lot like that. He's way too happy, celebrating a little too much. Like, yeah, you have more fights, my guy. Like, settle down.
I hope he does well. I'm not saying like I want to see him lose. Like he seems like a good dude. Like I really like the way he handled the victory, even when Delfimo was kind of being an ass or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like how Cambosos was like, dude, let's fight again, man. Let's have a war. I'm like, that's what I want to hear from a fighter.
Yeah.
But all that aside, I bet, because Loma's such a technician, I bet he sees that and he's like, I'd love to fight this guy for all the belts. Like I could, I don't want to say easy, but he's seeing that and he's just like, I can do this. Let's do it. And then at that point, take out the Young Bucks, take out Devin or Ryan if he ever gets around to it, which would be exciting fights as well. So,
yeah, if he gets all those belts, he controls everything, and now that would be a lot of fun because Lomachenko would fight all these dudes. He would fight all these dudes, and so that would be very exciting.
Yeah, so I like it. To answer your question, I'm like, let's do it.
I hope this is, I think, the move that I wanted Crawford to do with Spence.
Ooh.
This is the move I wanted him to make because Spence is a bigger star. Spence just draws more people because Spence has a better personality, and I just wanted Crawford to do that, to say, you know what, fine, we'll do a 60-40 split,
whatever you want. Yeah,
whatever you want. Let's just get in this ring, and Crawford walks around thinking he's Canelo, and it just like, do you understand your market value? Because he clearly doesn't. Before we go into Charlo and Canelo, let's do some UFC. I wrote this down. I had told you about this like last week, right, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, last week I think.
So Francis Ngannou, his contract expires in December, right? He fought sometime in January, the same day the Niners beat the Packers.
Yeah,
and he retained the belt. He's a heavyweight champion. He's not scheduled to fight again, right?
He is not. That was the last fight on his contract.
Okay.
And I think there's some kind of champion clause that if he wanted to, he would have to fight again before December. But if he just holds out until December, he's done.
Right.
With that contract, right?
So it's very interesting because this is very like WWE stuff, because he could potentially leave with the belt. He's the champion. Nobody's beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously UFC doesn't want that. UFC, and but Dana is very, vindictive. So I don't know if he wants to work with Francis Ngannou. And Francis Ngannou has more a bigger financial incentive, for example, to fight a Tyson Fury, because he would make a lot more money, and more money is ever made in the UFC. And we've talked about like the fighter pay in the UFC, and just that discrepancy and how he wants more, and that whole thing. So in that fight, as I was watching it, and even the Mexican dude that fought in that undercard, Moreno,
right? Yeah.
So walk us through. How do you judge a fight? How do you judge a UFC fight? Because I watched both of those and I thought, okay, I thought Moreno won, but the judges said no, that this other guy won. And then I hear the announcers and they're saying no, Moreno is losing, and I just think, well, I don't know. From my point of view, I feel like he's winning. So how does somebody, like, how does a random person like me learn to judge an MMA fight?
So I think something that makes it kind of difficult to keep track of, and is all the different tools available in a UFC fight, obviously. So I was having a discussion with some friends, and they brought up like the whole UFC versus boxing, and they're like, well, which one do you think is harder? Blah blah, and this and that. And someone was like, well, boxing, man, like it's the one craft, and there's so many ways to go about it. And the other person was like, but in UFC there's like different art forms themselves, and within that you can dive into one craft. You can like devote your life to wrestling, pick up some striking, and then you're a threat. Or you're all about the jiu-jitsu, your wrestling might be kind of and so there, you can mix and match and whatnot. And the way I like to think of it is that they say there's like a guy that practices one kick like 10,000 times, and so he's like a master of that kick. And I think the UFC is the guy that practices 10,000 kicks, maybe, a couple hundred times. So, there are more things to look at. And so in boxing, you have punches landed, punches thrown, right? And that's pretty much, for the most part, that's what goes into scoring.
Right.
But you also have fights where, like, if we look at like Triple G and Canelo in the first fight, technically speaking, the way I look at it is Triple G landed more jabs, right? Not as many power punches. He missed a bunch of power punches, whereas Canelo didn't throw as many jabs. Altogether, Canelo maybe threw less punches, but he landed a higher percentage, a higher ratio, and more of them were power punches.
Yeah.
So when I look at that fight, I know like the mob says like, "Oh, dude, Triple G, destroyed him and walked him down," and I'm like, "Hold on, man, it's hit, not get hit." So Canelo was landing like the cleaner, more decisive shots, and Triple G was landing a bunch of jabs, but he didn't really do anything with them.
Yeah.
And so in MMA, you have striking, which is the hit, not get hit, but then you have takedowns, takedown defense, and then we have like ring generalship and like kind of controlling the pit. So if you're taking a guy down and you're using your ground and pound to kind of keep him there, that's to your advantage. That could look good for you when judging a fight.
Okay.
And the thing is, you also have like, for example, in the Moreno fight, I thought Moreno was hurting Figueroa a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe throwing the bigger punches, but Davison might have been throwing more frequent punches, maybe not doing the same amount of damage. And then he also had a knockdown or two later in the fight.
But just the activity.
Right. Yeah. So all that can be taken into account. And so that's why you have, like we have in boxing, you go, "Oh, I saw the fight 7-5, but I could see it a draw, or I could see it 7-5 for the other guy." There's so many things where it's like, I could see that going the other way.
Okay.
And since mixed martial arts is such a new sport, not everybody knows about jiu-jitsu. Not everybody knows about wrestling, right? So, a guy like Tyron Woodley, who wrestled his whole life, he had some fights in his career where he didn't throw many punches, but he would stuff so many takedowns. He was just evading takedowns left and right because of his wrestling background. And if he did throw any punches and they landed, he's the clear winner, right? So he protected himself. He landed the punches, and they never took him down. So it's kind of like the way Mayweather would land an absurd amount of punches, wouldn't throw many, but when he did, he landed them flush, right? And just how people argue that it wasn't always entertaining to watch Floyd, that people would say the same about Tyron. Like even Dana was like, "Man, I'm sick of promoting a champion that threw 10 punches the entire fight, but he landed maybe 9 of those punches and he stuffed like 10 takedowns." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all that needs to be taken into consideration. And the thing is also, it's there isn't much when you're talking about striking in the UFC. Head movement isn't as big of a deal, right? Because if you do a bunch of bobbing, you might just catch a kick on the side of the head, and you're done.
Yeah.
So when guys are talking about striking, it's pretty much like human cockfighting. It's like who can land the most punches and just whose head is going to get knocked off first, who's going to fall first.
Yeah.
And so you have guys like Max Holloway that have absorbed so many punches, but they've hardly been like knocked down. But and they also throw the same exact amount of punches. So all that takedowns, takedown defense, I would say ring generalship, or how you dominate when you have someone pinned down, and the striking, and all of it is up for interpretation as far as the frequency of punches, if the punches hurt more, based on them being like power punches or just kind of like a jab, or you could also use like a kick as like a jab, where you kind of use the kick to keep someone at bay, out of their range, I guess.
Okay.
So, and a lot of these judges, I mean, it's like we have judges all the time in boxing where it's like, for example, like is it Adelaide Baird or Adelaida?
Yeah.
Baird?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like some of these scores in boxing are like atrocious, and I'm sure the same thing happens in UFC where it's like, damn, bro, what fight were you watching? And fighters usually always want other fighters to be judges, and so it's like, where do these judges come from, right? So they don't always know what they're watching. Someone that's judging for UFC might have like a big boxing background, and they think that certain things in boxing, you're like, oh, I think he has generalship of the octagon.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give that guy that round, But there's a lot that goes into that sport where they're not really like in the mainstream for like Americans, I guess, as far as like the jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, I would say there are probably more boxing gyms than Muay Thai gyms or like jiu-jitsu gyms.
Right.
So this sport is like it's still in its infancy, and we're seeing it with like the pay as well. Like I've been like reading up on like the percentages of the revenue that goes to players in NBA versus the NFL versus UFC and boxing. And sure, is it apples to oranges? Because you have teams in the other leagues, but then you have the UFC fighters that are basically independent contractors
In the UFC.
That's what they are. But the way the UFC sets itself up, they force these guys into signing contracts, and they have so many restrictions. Like with Francis, man,
I call cap. No, come on.
They're independent contractors.
Independent contractors, then why can't they make their own contracts?
Because they signed the contracts with Dana, and so Dana has the leverage to put them in those contracts.
Oh man,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's the greed, man. If you look at the percentage, the UFC makes about like the fighters get 9 to 10% of like the revenue that the company makes, and the NBA and NFL hovers around that 50%.
Yeah, 49-50. Yeah.
So it's like, but you would think they'd have more freedom being independent contractors, but Daddy Dana's over there, and McGregor was under contract, but he let McGregor fight Mayweather. I don't know what the deal is. It's just, why can't Francis just go fight Tyson for a couple million and come back and defend the title?
Well, I think what you see, and you see it in the NFL as well, and the NBA as well. Whenever you have one person in charge of something, it's a human element. There's people that you like. There's people that are good for business. There's people that's bad for business. Roger Goodell, like it came out last week. They kind of made up a lot of the Deflategate stuff. So the Brady 4-game suspension, the whole like he's a cheater for deflating, it kind of turned out it was all made up. It was a witch hunt, and it was all because Goodell was probably sick and tired of the Patriots.
That's waiting all the time.
Yeah. He was sick and tired of the other owners saying like, "Oh, you let these guys get away with everything." And it was probably one of those that they were waiting for them to do one more thing, and he threw the hammer at them. And because it doesn't make sense. Why would you have a witch hunt over your best player? It doesn't make any sense. And then you see it in the NBA last season, in the midst of like all the COVID stuff. LeBron was at like some bar or whatever, or concert with like Drake and all that. He didn't have a mask, and it was like right in the beginning of all the vaccine stuff, and nothing happened to him. Nobody said anything, and it was just kind of like it was on the news, and then you keep it moving. Adam Silver did nothing, said nothing, and it was one of those pretty much understood. It's LeBron James. Are you really going to suspend LeBron James right before a playoff game? I don't think so. So I think in with Dana, you see that as well, where McGregor is a moneymaker.
It's a cash cow. Yeah.
So if McGregor wants to do or say whatever, that's okay because he's bringing in money, and maybe Francis Ngannou isn't doing the same, because I think that I was reading one of the things that frustrates Dana and some of the upper management people in the UFC is that Ngannou doesn't lend himself to the promotional stuff like a McGregor. Like who's the dude that wears the MAGA hat?
Kobe.
And like the guy he's fighting, Masvidal. And so in UFC, that's huge because you saw it in boxing too. Bob Arum had his big beef with Bud Crawford. Wasn't that Bud was boring to watch? Wasn't that Bud wasn't a good fighter? Was that Bud didn't sell seats? And that's what you get sometimes, and it's just sad that they're not truly independent contractors like boxers.
Yeah, because
I think that would fix a lot of the thing. But Dana, I think, loves the idea that he's representing the UFC and not so much a individual fighter.
But so I read that NBA. I mean, I think most NFL, NBA, but they have like health insurance, like their retirement plans that are covered.
Yeah.
UFC has none of that. So I read that UFC fighters, if they get injured in a fight, the UFC takes care of like the bills and all that. But if they get injured training on their own or outside of a fight, then I think they're on their own. And so
That's
a lot of these
crazy.
guys, I know, well, that's what I'm saying, man. That's why some of these guys are pissed, you know. And I know it's easy to just kind of be like, oh, like, you know, they shouldn't be complaining about more pay, and it's like some of those guys make like pennies on the dollar, man, you know. And it's
Not only that, but some of these big name guys,
yeah,
like Francis Ngannou, like I was reading some of this money he makes, and I'm like, really, for the heavyweight champion of the world? Like he's barely cracking $1 million.
Yeah.
And the argument I hate, and I hate when people do this. It's I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when people look at how much money athletes make and say, "Oh, well, that's plenty of money. Why, you pay me?"
Right.
Like, shut up.
Right.
First of all, shut up. I don't want to hear that. Like, for a guy who's getting paid under $1 million, that would never. Imagine if Tyson Fury was getting paid just right at $1 million for having a heavyweight fight. That would be unheard of. Unheard of. It was unheard of when Mike Tyson was fighting, and that was like in the 90s. The dude was making hundreds of millions of dollars. That structure makes no sense to me, because you can't tell me the money is not there.
Yeah.
Because they have a UFC has like events every week, I feel.
Oh,
like, so don't tell me you don't have the money for it. It just makes no sense whatsoever at all. Just makes no sense for them to do that. So I'm on the side of Ngannou, and I hope he gets his money somewhere. And it'd be fun to see him take the belt, because I don't know what would happen with the UFC. But I'm kind of monitoring that, because I just think that's super funny that he holds the belt. It's his belt because nobody beat him. And I thought he was going to get screwed. I thought there was going to be a screw job in his last fight, because they were going to try to take the belt from him.
Oh yeah, you thought they were going to kind of rig the fight?
Yeah, because it was a close fight, and Ngannou didn't look all that great in that fight. Yeah. But I thought he won, and so it's just interesting.
His knees were messed up. There's all this stuff that was good, like you see like the braces on his knees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So his team was like, yo, you might want to pull out of the fight, because you could, if you mess up your knee even more, like you might not fight at all. But he did it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just feels like more and more like Dana just, it's like a power thing. It's like, why can't Ngannou just go fight, box real quick, and then come back and defend the title again? Like, it's just what?
It's all, Dana's all about the politics, and on one side you can't blame him, because unless you're incentivized to give more, why would you? And so unless all these fighters band together and decide we're not gonna,
and that's the thing, man,
do anything, nothing's gonna happen.
They're not even unite. Like I was watching an interview with this other, his name was Matt Schnell, this UFC fighter, and right off the bat, like in the NFL, you have like the NFLPA, Player Association, so you always talk about like unionizing.
Yeah.
And this UFC fighter was like, I don't want union. He's like, I want to be able to negotiate for myself. And it's like, the problem is that too many guys kind of have that I'm going to get my mentality, and the rest of you guys are screwed. But I don't know, at least unionize for like benefits, man, like retirement, like health insurance, at least that. Yeah, then you can negotiate your individual contracts. But just to play devil's advocate here, like Khabib, example, Khabib was talking, they asked Khabib about the Francis thing. And because there was the possibility that like Francis wasn't gonna fight that fight at some point.
Yeah.
And Khabib's like he's a Muslim, he's like super religious, and he's he's a very honorable guy. And some people just say like, I mean, Francis, maybe your management isn't all that great, and you signed a crappy deal. That's why you're making $600,000. I don't know. But you gotta at least finish your contract when all this stuff is going down, and then you can renegotiate what you want to do. Are you familiar with Sean O'Malley? Sugar Sean O'Malley?
No.
He's I think he's like a bantamweight, but he's the really thin UFC fighter, and he kind of has like curly colored hair, like different colors.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen him. Yeah.
So that guy, he's like a major crowd pleaser, and he's very young. He doesn't have like many fights, but he's working his way up. And some people, people always, when they talk about like, whenever there's a big fighter, people always talk about like ducking, or you're not fighting the best competition. You see it with Canelo and all these other guys, like, oh, you're not fighting the best, this and that. And at one point, Sugar Sean came out and said, he's like, dude, the contract that I have right now with the UFC, it's like, it's not that great. I'm a young fighter, right? I'm up and coming. So depending on the contract that you negotiated, he was like, right now, while I'm young and my contract is set for X amount of fights, why would I go and give myself the biggest fights, take on the biggest fights, and possibly risk losing and missing out on some money, while at the same time making crap money on this contract? He said, or I'll take the easy fights to build up my brand, secure a big contract for the next one, where I can renegotiate how many, pay-per-view and this and that. Then I go after the champ. Then I go after the title. Then I go after the big fights. So with Francis, like, after having seen like this contract, I'm just like, maybe we just signed a bad deal. I don't know, man. 600,000. I'm like, it sounds like your agent just didn't. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing, man. Because I feel like you'd be able to at least put in something in the contract where you can renegotiate pay-per-view points. Granted, we don't know how much he made on pay-per-view. I know the 600,000 is just
the base
pay.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't.
But I think it's hard to negotiate something like that, because I don't think anybody thought Francis Ngannou, except for him and his people. But for him to walk in there and be like, no, I'm going to be a monster in the division, I think Dana would have been like, well, how do you know that? Brock Lesnar has came in here and thinking he was going to dominate, and look where he's at now. When Alistair Overeem showed up, he thought he was going to be the biggest bully, and he came in here and has gotten wrecked
time after time. Yeah.
Hardy has came in here, and he thought because he was some big dude who played in the NFL, he was going to do much. He's gotten wrecked. So I don't know, like Junior Dos Santos, who was a good fighter, he dominated for a little bit, but then in his second fight with Cain Velasquez, he was completely dominated.
Yeah.
The dude was like walking in that fight like if he was drunk, he was that exhausted. So I think my pushback is there's no way of knowing he was going to become the superstar he was going to be. And even if he spoke that way, Dana was never going to be like, okay, you know what? I believe you. You're going to be a giant star. Here, let's do a 3-fight deal and then we'll renegotiate in 3 fights. I don't think that was ever realistic. Ever. Unless he would have came from another MMA brand. Right. I don't think that was ever going to happen because Conor had to fight his way all the way up for him to even get to that place.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with Ngannou, and I think in boxing, it's kind of, or not boxing, in combat sports, it's all about the person. You got to sell yourself. Yeah. Conor sold himself, so Conor was able to build up the leverage because people wanted to see him fight.
Yeah.
In the NBA, for example, Kawhi Leonard, super quiet, and it doesn't matter though because he doesn't have to sell himself because the NBA and the Clippers are selling the team or selling him. And so he can just be the quiet dude who like plays basketball and has a weird laugh, and that's okay. And people are still going to buy your jersey. People are still going to watch your games. People are still going to go to your games because it's not dependent on him, at least personally. Right. Yeah, because the Clippers are going to give him the max, and he might be hurting in the commercials. But what does it matter if you're getting hundreds of millions of dollars already from your team? And I think that's where Francis Ngannou I don't think he gets it. And that's where I would agree with with your devil's advocate point. You got to sell yourself. You want to, get leverage against Dana. You got to make people want to see you. And I think that's where, not to go all the way back to Ryan Garcia, I think that's the selling point for Ryan Garcia. The reason why we care about Ryan Garcia is because he has a lot of people caring about him. So he's going to post a TikTok and it's probably going to get 100 million views and a couple 100,000 likes. And that matters. Yeah. That matters because people are going to gravitate to that. And it's why Jake Paul can negotiate a contract with Showtime, because people watch his fights. And I think that's the aspect that Francis Ngannou and some of these other guys don't have and don't understand. And I wish they would understand. I wish they would get it. Like, the reason why Canelo is doing interviews, the reason why Canelo is playing golf with Steph Curry, it's not because he wants to be best friends with Steph Curry, but because if there's pictures of Canelo and Steph Curry, guess what that means to all these companies in the US? Money. Oh, we can pay Canelo money because he's not a recluse in Mexico. He plays golf.
He's in San Diego,
yeah, he's right here. So the dude is willing to. He's willing to talk English now. Throw more money at him.
Great.
And I think that's the part that, like, these people don't understand. Why is Mayweather at every single Laker game sitting front row? I'm sure he likes basketball, but because more publicity equals more money. And in a sport where you have to sell yourself, you got to do what you got to do. And I think that's the part when it comes to the UFC and to boxing, that's the only part that I'm like, well, you could help yourself by doing some interviews and just just appear likable, or do the Kobe thing where he, the dude is just like, everybody hates him, but everybody wants to see him get beat up.
Tunes in, yeah.
So people are going to buy the fight because they want to see the MAGA hat guy get beat. So it works. It's a persona, and I think that's how you have to build it and think of it. And I don't think he understands, and I think that's what's hurting him in this negotiation.
If you're Francis, hypothetical here, let's say he doesn't renegotiate a new contract with the UFC, leaves the UFC, leaves as the champ, right? Gets a fight with Tyson, gets destroyed, but he makes a payday.
Right.
If you were in Francis' shoe, where would you go after that in that situation? Back to the UFC, more exhibition? Could you get another exhibition? Like, what would be? What do you think?
What would you do, Adrian?
Just go to WWE.
WWE.
That's not a bad move.
They'll pay you. They sell you there too. Ronda Rousey did it.
True,
I think she's still there. I'm not sure.
Movies. Hey, Francis already did Jackass. He did Jackass.
That's true.
Damn, bro. But what would be like?
That's tough because
I can't think of anything. At least not with I wouldn't see him personally going back to the UFC if he had a big payday. He would just walk off into the sunset with his millions.
Yeah.
I don't know, reinvest or something.
Yeah.
And you know what happens to we saw what happened to Conor after he got that big payday. He just doesn't have that same fire and desire.
There was a boxer that said it's really hard to.
It's Marvin Hagler.
It's hard to
sleeping in silk pajamas.
Yeah. I love that quote because it's so true.
Oh my gosh.
R.I.P. I like Adrian's idea of the WWE, or you can do action movies. You can be the crazy villain in action movies,
like Arnold, like Schwarzenegger, dude.
Yeah.
After bodybuilding, he just became the Terminator, and
But you know what's crazy is, and it goes back to the same thing. He doesn't have the personality. Arnold Schwarzenegger had the personality, was willing to work on his English, and to this day, even though it's hilarious to make fun of him and get to the chopper, it works. It works. The dude had a commercial in the Super Bowl, so he's gonna have to do something where his personality, or he can go to France. I'm sure the French make movies.
I was gonna say I would say Francis. He's definitely not like a Mayweather or Canelo, but
no, not at all.
I wouldn't call him a Bud Crawford. He's from Cameroon and he speaks French and he's learned English.
I'm sure he speaks Spanish too.
And so at one point in time, he like, he does interviews, but I just don't think he's at that level yet with like the other guys where it's like he knows they can cash in on that.
Yeah,
but he's definitely not a recluse.
No, he's not. He's not a recluse.
So
but
he's kind of in that tweener where it's like, he doesn't know where he's at. Like,
yeah, it's just like be an a-hole or be super nice. Like pick one.
Yeah,
because that's where you're gonna get paid. Mayweather said, "I'm gonna be an a-hole," and people gave him money, and then other dudes have decided I'm gonna be a nice guy, and they gave them money. So you just got to pick one. You just got to pick a personality and run with it.
Pick one and run with it. Dang.
But WWE would make sense.
Partner with a liquor,
like a drink, like a
some African.
Some rum. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know something.
I don't know what African drinks are.
There you go.
I'm not that cultured, but yeah.
Okay. So, President Ngannou, we got ideas for you. You need help with your image,
or you can fight John Jones.
We got to, or
fight that's shelf. I would not mind seeing him fight John Jones.
But would Dana make that happen?
I don't know. That's like another long shot because Dana doesn't really like John Jones, and it's kind of like.
Well, John Jones is oh my god, that guy. I've seen YouTube videos of that guy, and that guy like has like every tool. He just likes coke too much, I guess.
Yeah. Well, dude, all that stuff aside, like when people when fighters talk about John, they're just like,
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, but dude, he's like, as far as abilities, like he's GOAT status. And if you look at like the title defenses, like when Khabib won his last fight, it was like what? Like fourth. He didn't have that many title defenses because he retired kind of young. Mm-hmm. But like no one on that list is close to John Jones as far as title defenses. And sure, not all of John's title defenses were like lopsided, but there were some close ones. But he has, he got started really young when he became champ and had a bunch of defenses.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all the stuff outside of fighting, it's like, dude, just chill at home and fight, man. I don't know. I'd love to see him fight, but and then also Dana says that the demand isn't there for that fight. It's like I wouldn't have money to pay you millions because although it'd be a cool fight, not that many people would want to see it. But I want to see it.
That's crazy. That's stupid. That's a stupid take.
Not as many people. John Jones isn't like.
There is no way. Are you kidding me? If Dana White comes out tomorrow and says, "Hey, John Jones versus Ngannou in July,"
that
UFC X.
But here's the thing.
People are like, "Oh yeah, I'm not interested in that." Come on.
John wants like boxing money. John wants like.
I think that fight can generate boxing money. Come on, are you kidding me? Come on.
I don't think
I'm as casual as it gets with UFC. I would pay for that fight. Come on.
Yeah.
But there's a large crowd that saw Ngannou's fight with Stipe, and immediately they were like, "Oh, this guy would destroy John Jones." Like, there's no way because that's a big jump. Light heavyweight to heavy, that's like 20-something pounds.
People would watch it for the spectacle of it. Come on.
Yeah.
You just can't have it in Vegas because John Jones would get in trouble, but have it in Fresno or something.
TJ.
It just come on, Dana. It just doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. Doesn't make no sense at all. It's like Canelo being like, "Yeah, I would fight Joshua, but there's just no interest for it." Like, what are you talking about? Everybody would watch.
But just for this, Dana's willing to give away that much of the pay-per-view.
Of course not.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
no, I'm with you. With you. I just want to make sure I push back on this idea that nobody would be interested in that. There's no interest in the fight. Like, come on, don't sell me that. Yeah. Tell me you don't want to pay them. Tell me that it's too much, but don't tell me people don't want to watch that.
That's the angle he's using. He's like, not enough people would want to see that fight for me to pay you. What you want your base pay to be, which would be like millions of dollars. Some
of these reporters that Dana like, and obviously he has a part to pick and choose. But I hear some of these interviews, I'm just like, dude, who are these reporters, dude? Like, are they like your cousins that are like
they're the same guys over and over?
They're so friendly with him, like that. Like none of them push back. The only guy that pushes back, and that the UFC has kind of banned is the
Ariel Helwani.
Ariel, I love that guy. I love Ariel. So I hear some of these interviews and I'm just like, bro, this is like they're throwing like softballs at this
They're
to
like
answer.
puppies. Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So just get real reporters in there to interview him. Let's do Charlo. Charlo wanted to fight Canelo. Supposedly, he was in line to fight him. There was reports that Al Heyman and PBC were gonna sign a 2-fight contract with Canelo, where he was gonna fight Charlo and Benavidez, and it was gonna be up north of 100 million. I heard that Mayweather got involved with that, and he like was jealous and started saying stuff, and so Canelo just backed out. I believe it because Mayweather's that guy. It's interesting that he's his jealousy is now affecting Al Heyman, and Al Heyman and Mayweather have always had a good relationship. So it's interesting to see how that's gonna develop because Al Heyman really wanted to make that fight happen. All reports point that Canelo was very happy with working with Al Heyman during the Caleb Plant fight, so he was more than willing to, sign. But all signs are pointing to he's going to sign the 2-fight deal with Matchroom. He's going to fight Bivol in May, which is going to be interesting, very exciting, scary fight, and the Triple G fight in September. Charlo. Reason why I brought up Charlo is Charlo was supposed to fight him, and then he got arrested.
In Texas.
In Texas, yeah, and for assault, I think it was allegedly. Obviously, all this is allegedly. Do you guys think he ever gets the fight with Canelo?
I mean, yeah, I think at some point, not soon.
I feel like the ship has sailed on him.
Like for sure, like ever, like getting the fight ever.
I just think he's gonna have to fight someone eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Canelo beats Bivol, if he beats Triple G, I think at that point, I don't know if Canelo fights in November again, but say he fights in November or May of next year, I think Benavidez is a better fight. I'm more excited for the Benavidez fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather see Canelo pursue the whole 175 world than Charlo. I feel like this was Charlo's one opportunity to get Canelo in the ring. I don't know. Like, I'd rather see Plant than Charlo fight Canelo again. Like, I feel like Charlo's entire selling point is a lot of it. I think it's race. A lot of it is, Canelo gets heat because he doesn't like to fight black fighters. I think this was a lot of motivation for Canelo to want to fight him.
Mm-hmm.
And if he, and whatever happens with his legal troubles, I just don't know if this opportunity comes back. And you see it in boxing sometimes where that happens. You make a mistake and all of a sudden you're completely out of those sweepstakes to have a big name fight like that.
How's Canelo now? 31, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're both 31. Charlo's 31 too.
And we heard that Canelo wants to fight until he was 36, 37 maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I think there are only, at least in my mind, even if I look at the landscape of 175, there are only so many fights that make sense for Canelo as far as like chasing legacy and belts and whatnot. Before I think we'll see that fight later, but that's also based on what I'm seeing from Charlo and the activity that he's been putting out. And we keep beating this dead horse. It would definitely speed up the process. If I'm Canelo and I see Charlo fighting Benavidez, fighting Plant, Andre, I'm thinking, ooh, something's going on over there. I want to fight that guy. But with all these divas just kind of standing around, I think Canelo just clears out 175, maybe fights Benavidez, and then 3-4 years from now, we're like, oh, this Charlo guy's still all right. Yeah, I'll fight him, sure. But I'm also just not that impressed with Charlo. Like in that last fight with Montiel,
Same.
I'm just like,
Same. Yeah.
Like what do you really have? You don't have a belt. You have to move up and weight. What do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
At least Benavidez kind of has this quote unquote like boogeyman persona at
Mhm.
168, but then he's not fighting top competition. But I am excited more to see Benavidez than Charlo. With Charlo, I'm just kind of like, and even watching that was it that little Showtime special of the Canelo and Plant fight, and Charlo's like, he's whispering to his buddies like, "Oh, I could beat Canelo." I was like, "You can't stop, bro. Don't like you're not that guy. Just sit down."
But even in a few years, I think Canelo Mungia is more exciting.
Yeah, but even then, it's like, like I said, there are only so many guys. What let's say Canelo fights Bivol, Beterbiev, Benavidez. Who's the other guy at 175? Smith, right? That's 4 fights. He could do that in like 2 years.
At that point, I could see
the fight
Canelo
wouldn't be as interesting. The fight wouldn't the
see, but I could see Canelo retiring.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Canelo's gonna
like. I can see him like do the like. Say he knocks out Triple G, he clears the 175, and I feel like at that point he looks. I think he looks around him. You know, he fights Benavidez, gets his belt. Canelo seems like the dude that would look around and be like, "I've won, belts in all these divisions. Maybe he goes for cruiserweight just to add a cherry on top." But I don't. Canelo doesn't seem like the Pacquiao
You don't
guy.
think he'll fight till he's 37?
I don't think so. I think he's getting too successful, too big,
Really?
and his whole thing is he wants to have everything Canelo. He wants to be a billionaire.
Canelo energy, Canelo gas.
So
I know.
I was gonna buy that Canelo speaker, bro. I was gonna buy 2 of them. Yeah, sign me up.
So
he has a taqueria too.
Bro,
It's coming to San Diego. I think.
So it wouldn't
see it eventually.
Okay.
I think Canelo really is that guy that likes to fight. He likes money, obviously, as well, but I also think he just does like boxing. And I think after he clears out 175, if I'm him, if Charlo's still hanging around, I'll be like, because there's a large portion of people that are like, oh, I want to see Charlo fight Canelo. I think Canelo just throw him that bone and take care of it.
I know, but what if the money outside of boxing is generating more? Like, I feel like it's going to come down to this. You get to a point where you're like, I've done everything I wanted to do. Do I want to stick around to see, Devin Haney come up all the way up to me? Do I want to stick around to see, Shakur Stevenson come all the way up? Do I want to see if Errol Spence ever gets up to 160? I don't know. I can see Canelo clearing all this out, feeling very confident.
Into the sunset. You see him taking off.
I can see the Mayweather thing. Yeah. Mayweather left with all his members left clean. You hear Mayweather now, and the dude was like spared of all the all the trauma that a lot of these boxers have. He doesn't have any of it. He doesn't, his speech is fine, the whole thing. I don't think we're gonna see the what Pacquiao did, where he's fighting into his 40s, and I don't see that.
Yeah, but like I said, I could see Canelo retiring in, like, let's say 3 years. He's 31, so 3 years, 34, maybe 35. Okay. I could see him in that amount of time clearing out 175, fighting Benavidez and maybe Charlo, and then I'd be fine with him retiring.
But wouldn't you rather fight Mujia in El Azteca?
That's what I'm saying. He could do that too, bro.
When Jalisco? No, I'm just saying, like, if I'm him, I'd rather fight Mujia in El Jalisco to end my career than to fight Charlo.
Canelo's also said he doesn't
and give him a payday.
I'm pretty sure he said that. He
doesn't want to
fight. That he doesn't want to fight other like big Mexicans, like Mexican fighters. I'm pretty sure he said that he doesn't like being like. Then you can fight Zurdo Ramirez too. But
there you go. I just think that there's more exciting fights for him than. Yeah. To me, Charlo is where Boo Boo is.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's an insult to Charlo. I think Charlo's a better fighter than that.
I don't think so. Sorry, I don't think so. I think they're in the same level. I think they're very similar.
that's a pass for me, bro. I'm sticking to my guns because even when you mention Mayweather dipping, like when did Mayweather stop fighting serious competition? What 39, 40 about?
37, but he was doing periodically. Mayweather wasn't active like that. Mayweather started doing the like cherry picking the dudes that he knew for sure were gonna sell pay-per-views.
In 3 years, Canelo could get all this done. 3 years, and he could take breaks. He could do.
Oh, why would he want to fight Charlo? What would Charlo bring in 3 years that makes you say, okay, he should fight him?
Nothing. Just to shut people up. Just that's it. That's all he needs.
I don't know. I feel like that time is right now. I think that's why he's fighting Triple G to shut people up.
Mm.
But in 3 years,
and no Triple G, I think he'd be.
I know, but he has no history with Charlo. In 3 years, what does he have to shut people up about?
But Charles been calling him out for years. Man.
It does. So has Boo Boo. Why? Okay, so why shouldn't he fight Boo Boo?
Because Boo Boo's, I think, is a far worse fighter than Charlo. Far worse.
I can't believe you're making me defend Boo Boo.
I just don't. I think that Canelo has enough time to do all this, just because I think he still has the fire to he really likes boxing. I don't see Canelo fizzling out. I don't see him going until he's 37, but 35, 36, I think he can get all this done. I just think it's feasible with the skill he still has.
Yeah.
Because like I said, because when I heard Eddie wants to retire at 35, Canelo said 36, 37. When I heard that number, I'm like, dude, who's going to be left for you to fight? There are only so many guys. And I just think eventually Charlo's name will get called. I think he'll win the lottery. I just think he'll get the payday. And it'll be a short fight. I just
don't see an incentive for him to fight him. I see the incentive now. I see why he would fight him now. In 3 years, when he's cleared 175, when we're talking about Canelo in like top 10 fighters of all time, where he secured his place as the best Mexican fighter of all time. This is for him to say, "Oh yeah, I want to give Charlo." I don't.
This would be the case, assuming that these guys don't fight each other, right? Because do you really think Canelo wouldn't fight Charlo if he went out and beat Benavidez, Plant, if he beat all these guys? Hypothetically speaking,
if Canelo, I don't.
If Charlo beat Munguia, you don't think Canelo would give him the shot if he beat all these guys? Or at least
I know, but you're saying Charlo's going to do something we haven't seen him do.
I think at some point, there's going to be no more bumps to fight. I think we get at least a fight.
I think you're underestimating how many bumps PBC has. Dudes have like an entire like warehouse of bumps that they pull out every single event. Dudes that I'm like, who are you? And it's like, oh yeah, this is like giving out tickets in Ventura. Like, what?
The mechanic.
Yeah, like Monday he goes back to giving out tickets. Like, what is this? Like, what are you talking about? And that's a true thing. They had a Ventura guy who worked for the city of Ventura in one of the Earl Spence fights, and the dude got knocked out, and I was just like, is he gonna go to work? Is he gonna be like, hey, I got knocked out, I have a concussion? Like, what's gonna happen? I'm like he's gonna have to send his boss the video, like, hey, no, for real, I was in a fight. I got in a professional fight. Like,
you pull up YouTube,
yeah. I just don't see the incentive in 3 years for him to fight. I see it now. I see it right now. And unless Charlo's gonna completely change his business, I don't see it.
I think enough people want to see it.
In 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, they've been rooting for bro. We've all seen, like you said, those videos of, boxers everywhere talking about everything. And to this day, I mean, we still tune in to see Charlo talk all this trash and Benavidez. We're still doing it now. And I remember watching these 3-4 years ago. So the fact that we're still talking about it, I mean.
And then there's Berlanga. Come on.
No, that guy, nah, dude. That guy, he's already been dropped, right? Yeah. No, next. Yeah.
Yeah. But now I have a feeling, I kind of agree that I've been thinking that Canelo's preparing for the end.
with all the business moves he's been doing and like that pay-per-view thing. I'm just thinking like, and I wanted to ask you guys, like, is he like preparing for his life after boxing already?
Bro, a few pods ago, German said that, oh, Canelo's gonna do exhibitions. I'm like, what? Like,
I can see that. I can see that. Are you kidding me?
I could see him doing one or two, but not to the magnitude that you were talking about. You're like, oh, I see. Like, you were saying he was gonna be fighting like YouTubers when we talked about like the Jake Paul thing.
I can see that.
Oh,
You think so? I didn't think he would.
I think he's got too much integrity for that, man. He's making so much money elsewhere. Why?
No,
again,
come on.
like what's
A Jake Paul Canelo would sell far more pay-per-views than any Charlo
the
fight.
Canelo gasoline in Mexico? No, thanks, bruh. Nah.
I'm just saying. You Canelo is all about.
I don't think he is. I think you're wrong. He's not Mayweather. That's why Mayweather's doing this, and you keep defending Mayweather.
Well,
Canelo
if you look at what
guy,
Canelo's been doing, and you look at what Mayweather's been doing, they're doing almost the same thing. They have their own brand. They have these businesses. Promotion, like they're doing.
Yeah, but
I don't think
Canelo's not a snake, bro.
Come on.
Oh no, man.
This is about business, and he's a business man.
Yeah, but Canelo's also heavy on the legacy and boxing history.
Yeah,
sure,
but
but the way Mayweather's been going,
but his legacy is secured, and we're entering a different world now. A different world.
Yeah.
A very.
Y'all can.
I don't think he should fight YouTubers, but
yeah, again,
it's sad that there's a chance.
I'm with you, David. I'm with you. I would hate it. I would hate it if he were to do it. But if in 5-6 years there's an announcement that he's fighting a YouTube star, I'm not going to be like, "What? No way! I never saw this coming." Like, come on, come on.
No.
You think he'll do
he's that
a
guy,
Mike Tyson?
Man. I don't think we're talking about the same guy, bro. With Mayweather, I saw that coming. All the Mexican poncho stuff, like that dude's a clown, bro. He could fight, but he's a clown. I don't see Canelo stupid at that level. Canelo's like a very serious person. Like when he's like, even when he's
Look. I can see Canelo leaving the sport of boxing for golf. Have you seen him golf?
Yes, but again,
you see how happy he is when he's golfing?
You see how competitive he is when he's golfing?
But do you see how happy he is when he's golfing?
Obviously, but he's happy when he's winning in boxing too.
It's very different smiles. Very different smiles. Very different. Come on. He's very different.
Obviously, no one likes getting hit in the face, but that over.
So if he's gonna get paid a lot more money to not get hit in the face, I think he would say, you know what? Thank you so much. I'll see you guys later. Time for me to do something else. Come on.
No, man.
What are you talking about?
I'm very disappointed.
It's just sad to see him go.
That you think that he would fight a YouTuber instead of.
I think if the money's right. There's a reason why he keeps entertaining it. There's a reason why he doesn't shut it down completely. Because when the time is right and the money is right, I think he would do it. All the greats have done it. Muhammad Ali did it. They've all done it.
Yeah, but he fought athletes. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a different time. There was no YouTube at the time of Muhammad Ali.
Nah, that's true.
It's a different time. Very different. Very, very different time.
It's not like Jake Paul doesn't have no training at all.
You got people like we talked about it. Chris, there's guys like Chris Mannix that are saying that he's like a really good boxer.
Yeah.
David, I'm sorry to break your heart.
That's what money does, bro.
He's just not.
I'm disappointed that you guys don't have faith in him. That's what I'm saying.
It's not about having faith in him. It's about business. That's all it is. It's not about having faith. This is about business. It's
not personal. It's business.
Yeah, he's a businessman.
Shut up, Adrian. What the heck, bro?
No. He's a businessman. That's what he is.
Damn.
Why else would he buy gas?
I hope that day never comes, man. Oh.
He said in the interview he doesn't like boxing like that. You heard the interview. He doesn't like.
I think after he's done boxing, I think he just golfs 24/7 and just he just wants nothing to do with Also, because to another thing to do like the YouTube stuff, that would require like heavy promotion. And I think once he's done with his pro career, I think he would just be like, man, I want nothing.
So you don't think Canelo would fight De La Hoya in an exhibition fight?
Okay, but De La Hoya was a pro fighter. That's what I'm saying. There's
still exhibition.
Yes, but there's still credibility with De La Hoya. This is why
is there? Is there?
Come on. Because really, Olympian, world champion.
Okay, at 55, there's no, what are you talking about?
What I hate is that the YouTubers are just they're athletically they're nobodies.
Yeah.
That's why I got really upset when Floyd was gonna fight Logan. I'm like, up until this point, when you saw any professional boxer step in any kind of ring for an exhibition, Shaq was a pro ball player. Muhammad Ali fought a pro wrestler, and then he fought Lyle Alzado, who's a pro football player.
Mm-hmm.
There's a major difference between talking about professional athletes and these clowns that are parading themselves because they have money.
I know,
huge difference.
I know, but it's about the payday. That's what it's all about. France, like any of these UFC.
Canelo's got a heart of gold. I'm sticking it out.
He has a heart of
gold. Damn it. Let me be.
He has a heart of gold.
I mean, he put on a show in his last few fights.
He has a heart of gold.
Canelo 2024, bro. Sign me up. Like,
oh man, I can see Jay Baldwin just having a concert in the middle of his fight with random YouTube star.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing before we move on and continue to hurt David's feelings on Canelo. So if he signs his deal with Matchroom, he's set to launch the Zone pay-per-view, which is huge.
Yeah.
Because the Zone obviously is not pay-per-view. They were supposed to be the end of pay-per-view.
Subscription, yeah.
And I think this is the power of Canelo, and I think this is the stuff that people are going to gravitate to. He's so powerful now that even he's able to have his own pay-per-view stuff. And if he's able to do this, launch this, I think this changes the game for PBC, for everyone, because now Canelo has his own outlet to have pay-per-view fights where he doesn't have to do a contract with anyone. He can just tell them, come over here. And obviously, Eddie Hearn's a big mastermind behind all this. And I just think that's super interesting. And I'm looking forward to see that, because I think that adds to the power that Canelo wants to have, where all things are Canelo, and so this is Canelo pay-per-view brought to you by Canelo Promotions and in partnership with Matchroom, which is we've never seen that. Not even Mayweather was able to do that. So that's interesting stuff. What do you guys think about that?
Did you guys see Canelo's tweets about how nothing is confirmed?
Yeah, that's why all this is like, if he signs, so on.
Right. Don't we also need Triple G to win his next fight with Murata?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna win.
Yeah,
man, you're Triple
G fight doesn't. I'm just like, oh, we don't even need this fight. I'm like,
man, you're totally psyched out, bro. You shook,
bro. All the juices are like all the serotonin. I'm just like.
Wait, so you think he'll have nothing to do with boxing at all, and no promotions, nothing when he's done?
Who, me?
Canelo, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what he said. He said they asked him, like, he has no intention, like, to coach or teach, to commentate, to analyze. They ask him about fighters, and he's like, I don't really watch boxing. So I figure with that and making gas station money, cell phone plans, I'm just like, and playing golf, his love, his like second love. I'm like, I just wouldn't see him. I mean, sure, like, yeah, billions of, like, obviously there's like a high price, but it's like, I just don't see him like ditching like the beach and golf when he's already making millions off all this stuff to go do promotions with Jake Paul, like with a Pokemon card hanging from it. I'm just like, that's clown stuff, bro. Canelo's not that kind of clown. Mayweather was. He is that guy. We've seen it.
Oh man, I love it. We broke you. We broke him. Let's go.
So if that deal goes through with the pay-per-view, it's just for meanwhile he's boxing, just for those fights.
It's a 2-fight deal. It's a 2-fight deal, and then he does whatever he wants after the Triple G one. But I think if he's able to get the zone pay-per-view, I think this is one of those he keeps it going, because I don't know where else he would get that type of deal.
Okay, so
you think that'll stay once he's gone?
No, of course not.
No.
So question here, because obviously, like when Canelo says like nothing's confirmed, I'm still negotiating. If I'm Canelo, the only thing that separates like so you have the two deals, option A, option B, right? You have Benavidez, Charlo, right? Which no belts, right? You have Bivol, Triple G, which is just the one belt at light heavy. The numbers we were seeing, which might not be accurate for the 2-fight deal with the zone, was like 65 million, 75 million for those two. It might be higher, right? If he's still negotiating.
Yeah, and but then, that and you know, I think the majority of the pay-per-view money.
Pay-per-view, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But the base pay would be around that mark, allegedly, based on what we've heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and the PBC would be like 100 million or something.
Right, 100 million for those two fights. That's 100 million guaranteed plus pay-per-view points.
Right. But I think
no belts.
Right, and the pay-per-view split I think is lower.
Okay.
Because now you're sharing it with Al Heyman and all that.
Right.
I would go with Matchroom. That's
because he likes Eddie, because of the Eddie thing.
No. The potential of you being able to run your own pay-per-view. I think that's different.
Okay.
That's the I would do that.
Well, because I'm just like, damn, 100 million, and I do think Bivol is more dangerous than Benavidez and Charlo, but I don't know. I would just see those two, and I'm like, oh, easy fights, more guaranteed money. But then if the pay-per-view wins, you got to split them. Then I'm like, all right, I can see that.
But I just think it depends what he wants to do. If he wants to go after 175, other 175 dudes are in the zone.
Yeah.
So it just depends. But if it's he wants to keep a good working relationship with Al Heyman, but if I'm him, I'd do the zone.
Yeah.
Legacy-wise, the whole thing. Maybe he makes enough money he doesn't have to fight a YouTuber in 7 years or so.
I should hope so. For your sake and Adrian's sake.
Why? We're with you. We don't want him to do that. We just
the way things are going.
Come on. You can't be ignorant. Come on.
I can see Ryan doing that.
Oh, please. Come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick him while he's like, yeah, I can see Ryan doing that.
I mean, yeah.
Let Ryan fight a real boxer before we even contemplate him fighting a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's end with the Super Bowl. What were you guys' Super Bowl thoughts? Anything, the game, the halftime show, the parade after that happened 2 days ago here in LA. What were you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to watch the full game. I caught the end of it, but I do want to rewatch it. But the halftime show for me, I was able to see that, and I just got the whole time just chills,
bro.
I thought it was amazing to see.
Man,
it was a good show, from the sound to the music.
The Tim's Burger sign, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It was just like LA's represented, that was just an LA.
Yeah, the Compton map.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Even my dad liked it, man. Like which my dad's he's not at all. I don't even think my dad likes like music like in general, which is weird because I'm a musician, but I mean he likes like Madonna, like Michael Jackson, like the stuff he grew up in the 80s, but like gangster rap was never like a thing in the house. I had to find that like on my own. But when he saw Snoop dancing, he was just like, I like that guy. He's cool.
Is it true he did the crip walk?
He crip walked, right?
My dad?
Your dad, yeah.
He like attempted when he was like, he's like, oh, ese negrito like me gustaba cómo estaba, and he was like, and I was like,
he started throwing up gang signs, huh?
He threw up the seat.
Yeah, crib banging, yeah, dude.
Oh,
no, but that was a good time. So I watched the halftime show like with my brother. It was just my dad was at work, but it was a cool moment when the halftime show was going on, and I was sitting on the couch, and my brother was like laying down on the next couch, and of course we're sitting there like bobbing our heads to like the next episode, and I look over and I see my brother, and he's laying down, and he's also like unison. I was like, this is beautiful. It was just a great moment.
Yeah, it was great.
I thought 50 Cent was hilarious, like hanging down, like upside down like that.
Give 50 a lot of credit. Dude's like in his 40s, willing to do that. You gotta give the dude a lot of credit.
Yeah, that was cool. The only like gripe I would have is I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan.
Okay.
I also love Eminem. Maybe not as much as you, Germ, but I love Eminem.
Yeah.
I was kind of disappointed, and you even tweeted this, that the Forgot About Dre.
Oh my God.
We just got the one line. Right?
Yeah. I just wanted them to do that song so bad.
Yeah. And so I've been talking with like some of my musician buddies.
Yeah.
And just because like the guys they announced, like it was Dre, Snoop, Mary J. Blige, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar. Those are the 5 that were like announced that were going to be in there for sure.
Yeah.
So 50 was a surprise, right? I would have been willing to sacrifice 50 to get more Eminem songs.
Oh, 1,000%.
Like
I would have been willing to sacrifice Mary J. Blige.
Even that too, because she's like from the Bronx.
I know people like her a lot, so I'm just doing that face.
So I would have been like, just give me all the bro. I wanted to hear like Ain't Nothing But a G Thing, and they play like the little sample, like the little synth noise, and I was like, they're gonna play that song. Right?
I would have been willing to sacrifice California Love.
Yeah. Or I was waiting for the Tupac hologram because there were rumors about the hologram.
Like I wanted to hear Kendrick do Humble. That's what I wanted him to do.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the fact that we only got the 2 Kendrick songs and then the 2, basically like one Eminem song plus the line from Forgot About Dre. I was like, man, get rid of 50 and Mary J and give me like the real Slim Shady. Like give me more of these guys, because that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. If he had one song, I know that like Lose Yourself is like sports, it gets if you had one song, I just was like, this one out of all of them, this one, like I guess
I mean, it's a hype song.
I know, so I understood it. I just, as a fan of Eminem, I just like, oh man, there's so many better songs in this one, but it is what it is.
Like Without Me, the real Slim Shady. I was just
I think Without Me would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting
because I thought they were gonna do that because it starts off like Guess Who's Back.
Yeah.
And I thought like, Dre was gonna come out and Snoop, the whole thing. Man, come on. Yeah.
So definitely got the chills like when the next, but with the 50 thing, I was like, I enjoyed the 50, but I was like, I didn't ask for all that. So I was just like I was like, no. And then when you ask someone a question and they give you like a barrage answer, like, yes or no, bro. Like I didn't ask for all that.
You want tacos or not?
Yeah. Don't tell me about how you're keto, you can't have tortillas, like just yes or no. Just so with the 50, I was like, I didn't want this. I didn't ask for this. I'm enjoying it, but I didn't ask for this. Give me more Kendrick, give me more Eminem. But it was a good time. Definitely a good time. The game itself, I mean, it's no secret. I was rooting for the Bengals. I was rooting for Joe Burr.
Yeah.
And they they put up a hell of a fight, but they had so many opportunities and they couldn't. Like after they scored the touchdown after the second half.
That was it.
And that was it. And they just couldn't capitalize on anything. And I get it. Aaron Donald is on the other side, intimidating guy. He was ripping them up. And so for I'm gonna give them their flowers. Not the way Germ did, but to end that game with Aaron Donald sacking Joe Burrow, like just his career summed up in that moment. I was like, damn, bro, like good for you, man. Like that was so that was cool for them. Cooper Kupp too, respect Cooper Kupp. I'm happy for Matthew Stafford. I don't really care about OBJ. All this talk about like, oh, OBJ deserved that ring. Did he really though?
Well, he didn't even play most of the game.
Yeah,
I mean, he helped in the playoffs, but just like, I was like, bro, you signed that like
that's true. You got a
contract. I'm just like,
That's it's you say about OBJ. That's how I feel about Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, but Matthew Stafford, like, I genuinely liked him when he was on the Lions.
I know, but to me, Matthew Stafford is a perennial loser.
I mean,
Matthew Stafford never won anything.
Name
Never
a guy on the Lions that wasn't, bro. Barry Sanders is a loser too.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But for me, for everyone to now act and be like, you see, he was always a winner. No, he was always a loser because this guy in Detroit never did anything remotely. And he had Calvin Johnson. He had good Marvin. He had Marvin. I'm forgetting the wide receiver's name, but he had good guys.
That's it, bro.
No, but he had good guys over there. Tom Brady. Tom Brady was winning. Tom Brady was winning with Troy Brown. Tom Brady was winning with. Come on now. No, but a quarterback should be able to elevate you.
Yeah, but okay. First off, to compare Matthew Stafford to what?
Tom Fine, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow got the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl. But I'll give you a guy in the lower category. Baker Mayfield won a playoff game last year with Cleveland. So to me, Stafford won the Super Bowl, the whole thing. It's just if Matthew Stafford never gets traded to the Rams and he stays in Detroit, none of this ever happens. And the Rams probably still make it to the Super Bowl.
But you can't name a guy that would do that with the Lions. Like
I know, but I think to me, that's the point. To me, that's the point. Tom Brady enters a situation and he makes them winners.
Right, but again, we're talking about the GOAT, man. Just because
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, but you're really gonna sit here and tell me that Baker Mayfield's better than the Matthew
I'm not saying he's better. I'm saying he did more than Stafford did in Detroit. That's what I'm saying.
Brady being a 10 out of 10 doesn't mean that you can't give Matthew Stafford like a 7 out of 10.
No, 7? What are you talking about? A 7?
You said he was
a 7
last week. Really?
A 7? He's a 5. He's a good quarterback.
A 5 is a good quarterback for you?
That's average. That's average. That's average.
Man, that's nah.
What are you talking about? You
think Baker goes to the Lions and wins him a playoff game with the guys Matthew Stafford had?
Yeah, I think so.
Nah. No protection? Nah.
No protection? What are you talking about?
Dude's running for his life the entire game. I don't know. Nah.
You mean to tell me if you put I don't know, Aaron Rodgers in Detroit with that team, he doesn't win with Calvin Johnson?
Yeah, but again, you're picking you've talked about Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, who else is at a 7?
Okay, let me give you this. You think Baker wins the Super Bowl with the Rams?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
What? No way.
Jared Goff was like a play away from winning the Super Bowl with the Rams. Jared Goff, the guy we laugh at now, the guy's in Detroit. It's the same guy. The guy almost won the Super Bowl with the Rams. Who's the 7? Who else is the 7?
Okay, you could say Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think if you put Matt Ryan on the Lions, they don't win a playoff game. They probably don't. They're just not. There are guys that are decent enough to. If you,
I think Matt Ryan could. Yeah. What do you mean?
Right.
When they would make the playoffs, we're asking for one playoff win. Not like for you to make the Super Bowl with the Lions. Can you win one playoff game? That's it.
But Barry had one playoff win.
Yeah, but he's a running back. A quarterback affects the game in a different way. Brady is able to get in the Super Bowl without any weapons. A quarterback should be able to elevate you. Elevated the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl. If Tyreek Hill doesn't drop those 2 passes in the end zone, that's a different game. That's a very close game. What do you mean? Are we going to act like Matthew Stafford is
giving Matthew Stafford his credit? Because I've watched him play, and I've always
that's fine.
When he was with the Lions, I was like, damn, if this guy was on a better team, he would not. He'd be pretty. If we put Matthew Stafford for an entire career, with.
Yeah, if you put him in a better situation, he wins more, but not because of him, but because of the situation around him. That's what I'm saying.
But there are guys that you can put in good situations and they lose. So what bothers me is that you said he's like a loser. I'm just
he is a loser. He's a perennial loser. Up until he got to Los Angeles, what did he win before he got to LA? What did he win? At least Baker has won.
Individual play, I just wouldn't call him a loser.
Okay, he has
Because
nice
there are
stats.
guys
You know
that
who
can-
else has good stats? Kirk
because there are
Cousins.
guys that could be
Kirk
put in
Cousins has good
situations,
stats.
and they don't win
Fine, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has won a playoff game.
with the Vikings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Diggs,
Calvin Johnson.
Percy Harvin. No,
Percy Harvin. What are you talking about? Come on, what are we doing here? What are we doing? He's a good quarterback with good stats, but we're gonna act like he's a winner.
But
That's
to
what
call
we're
him a
gonna do.
5, I'm like, fives aren't.
He's an average. He's an average quarterback.
I
I would say
I don't think so, man.
7.
I think Eli Manning's better than him. What?
No. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls because he had Jason Pierre-Paul, Michael Strahan, all those guys.
He had to make plays. He had to
Manning,
make plays.
Obviously, eventually a blind squirrel finds a nut. But
No, don't do
doesn't
that.
Eli Manning have records for like most interceptions thrown? Pretty
So
sure
does
he
Brett Favre. So does Peyton Manning.
Sucks, bro. Nah.
What do we? Phillip Rivers has won playoff games. Phillip Rivers. I think Phillip Rivers and Stafford are in the same boat, and I would rather have Phillip Rivers than Matthew Stafford.
You rather have Phillip than Matt?
Yes. I think Matt wins if the situation around him is good. I think had he gone to LA, had he gone to the 49ers, had he gone to any of these other contenders that were ready to win, he would have won. So I think Matthew Stafford did what we thought he was gonna do. But if Matthew Stafford were to get if Matthew Stafford gets traded to a good situation, not a great one, but a good situation, you switch spots with him and the Chargers or the Raiders that have good situations. I don't think we're saying like, oh yeah, they're gonna win the Super Bowl because of Matthew Stafford. He doesn't elevate you to that level. He goes to the Rams, and the Rams have everything in place. It's just Stafford don't screw it up. And guess what he almost did in the Super Bowl? He screwed it up. It's just the Bengals forgot how to play offense, and that's what happened. But if the Bengals hold on to that lead, guess what we're talking about? Oh, I don't know. Matthew Stafford, two interceptions in the Super Bowl. If Tark catches that interception in the NFC Championship game, guess what we're saying? I mean, Jimmy is whatever, but at least Jimmy was able to get him to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, 2 terrible picks. And that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying he's to act like he is like, oh man, like Matthew Stafford. Like, come on. Let's relax. Let's pump the brakes.
That's not the boat I'm on.
He's in the same boat with Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan. Like, he's in that boat. And guess what all those guys did? They've won playoff games with lesser talent than Matthew Stafford did here in LA. Here in LA, he had like a crazy team. Brady and Rodgers and Mahomes and the Rams go undefeated. Stafford was 7-4 and struggling in the middle of the season. We were wondering, man, are the Rams even going to make the playoffs? That was a real conversation in the middle of the season with Matthew Stafford there. Everyone has good
How many
stats.
years did he have Calvin? Didn't Calvin leave early too?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Calvin break a record, Jerry Rice's record? He doesn't do that without Matt Stafford. I think I don't think you understand how dysfunctional the Lions organization is, man.
I know, but the Bengals have been known as the team that's the cheapest in the history of the NFL. It is noted that these dudes have 6 scouts. These dudes don't spend money. Their offensive line can't block the 3 of us. And that dude took that team to the Super Bowl. What are we saying? All right, so he got drafted 2009. And Calvin Johnson got drafted 2007. So, I mean, he had him for, let's see, when did he retire? He retired 2015. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 6 years. He had him for 6 years.
6 years. No O-line, no running game, no defense. You keep mentioning all these guys, and they all have, you mentioned Brady with Troy Brown. Top 10 defense with the Patriots. Mike Vrabel, Willie McGinnis, all those guys, dude. When did Matt ever have that? Come on, man. Matt Ryan, Tony Gonzalez, Julio Jones. Come on, bro. Roddy White.
You still have to. Roddy White. Come on, Roddy White.
Roddy White is the guy I can remember other than anybody on the Lions team that isn't named Calvin Johnson. Other than that, who is that?
Come on.
bro, Phil Rivers, Antonio Gates, Vincent Jackson, bro, LaDainian Tomlinson. Come on, bro. Sean Merriman. Just come on, dude. Who the Lions ever had that was any kind of any Lions player that was ever like, oh, that's the guy. That's what, other than Calvin. That's it, man. That's just like,
Okay, but some of these guys, that's all they need. The year where the Patriots almost made the Super Bowl versus the Bears, Tom Brady was throwing to Gaffney, and that was an old defense.
But they still have the experience, Sherm.
Come on. Oh, come on. The
experience. Were you
at
2007 or 2006? 2006? Right?
Yeah.
Is that when the Colts went?
Yeah, when the Colts went. Yeah. Come on. What are we doing here?
And you're using Brady, greatest of all time.
Okay, Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger was throwing to like Santonio Holmes.
Yeah,
Santonio Holmes.
Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, Brett Kiesel, great Dick LeBeau leading your defense. Come on, bro. I'm telling you, everybody you're naming, they've got either like decent coaches and decent, maybe not the best guys, but decent players. And we're talking about the Lions, and it's like,
I know, but a quarterback needs to elevate you.
I can't even.
A quarterback needs to elevate you. Needs to hide a lot of the things that are
name
wrong.
A guy besides Calvin Johnson, and we'll end the argument. A guy besides Calvin Johnson on the defense side of the ball, and the offense side of the ball.
Fine.
So you gotta look him up.
I do. Oh, come on. What are you talking about?
That's the whole point. All the QBs we're talking about, they all have some kind of decent player, other than like the one good receiver that they throw to. And here you are going to Google. Case closed. That's it, bro.
No, it's not case closed.
Yes, because you have to look up guys to even find anybody on the Lions that can be comparable to Hall of Famers on the Patriots, or Hall of Famers on the Chargers, or Hall of Famers like just with the Falcons. It's like, okay. This to take a dump on Matt Stafford. Just he won, bro. That's it. He beat the Niners.
He did, but he didn't beat the Niners. It was that defense that beat the Niners.
Oh, so you can use that argument, but I can't use that for Eli Manning beating the Patriots with Jason Pierre-Paul, Michael Strahan.
Yeah, but Eli Manning had legitimate throws. Eli Manning had legit plays.
Where were those legitimate throws the rest of the seasons that he didn't have those defensive stars?
They weren't existent.
Dude was terrible. Exactly. So why are you putting that pressure on Matt Stafford when Eli was legit?
Because we put it on every other quarterback. Deshaun Watson with the Texans. Do you see how terrible the Texans were this year? And
yes,
how terrible.
But I can say Deshaun Watson is a much better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. That doesn't mean Matthew Stafford's a bad quarterback or a loser.
I didn't say he was a bad quarterback, but to say he's a loser, I think that's fair. The guy had never won anything. He's 34 years old. He'd never won anything till he got here.
But name who he had besides Calvin.
Yeah.
He had Dre Bly. Dre Bly is a good secondary player.
Who the hell is that, bro?
Oh, wow. Okay. Just because you don't know them doesn't mean they're not good.
You had to look them up. Case closed.
Yeah, of course I have to look them up.
You got to Google these guys.
Yeah.
If you can't name off the top of your head, I named all the guys named for Philip Rivers, bro. Keenan Allen, bro. Really? Come on. All these guys. Great players. That's why they're winning, Matt. The Lions... What I think Lions, I think Matt, Calvin, and then I think Barry. I can't Reggie Bush for like a year or two. Who's Reggie Bush? Like just nothing, dude.
Super Bowl champion Reggie Bush. What are you talking about? Super Bowl champion Reggie Bush.
Super Bowl champion. No.
Hey, Super Bowl champion.
Did he ever have a season where he rushed for over 1,000? Oh wait. In the NFL.
Did Raybo ever win Defensive Player of the Year? Did Brewski?
No, but they're like they're in the hall. Aren't they not in the hall?
No, they're not in the hall.
Brewski's gonna be in the hall.
Mm.
Willie McGinnis, Rodney Harrison. Come on, bro. You're talking about the GOAT. You're talking about Brady.
Okay, but I gave you guys in his. I gave you guys in his own realm,
and I named the guys that were on their teams that they had. And for Matt, you can't do that. Besides Calvin, you have the one guy where I'm naming at least 3-4 guys for the other teams. You mentioned the Steelers, and I mentioned Troy Polamalu. All those dudes. That's it. Case closed. That's it, man.
Case closed.
Give him his flowers.
All-time winner, Matthew Stafford. Let's go. All-time winner.
Just the winner, man. The dude wasn't not a first-round pick? A first-round pick?
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What do you mean?
That means he's just a good player, man. doesn't mean he's like a great player, but it means he's a good player.
Okay, I never said he was a terrible player.
And not every good player can can just like elevate everybody. That takes a certain quality, as we've seen with like a Rodgers maybe. I think Rodgers is super talented to where he does that. But if Rodgers maybe weren't as talented and he has the leadership skills that he has now, we don't see him as like a GOAT if he's not that talented and he just doesn't have leadership skills. You know.
For sure.
Someone's got to stand up for the little guy. I'm standing up for Matt Stafford. Just give me a break. This is the most the Rams fans will get out of me. That's it.
The little guy. Calm down. Yeah, the little guy. The little guy.
I got to protect him from big bad wolves like you, bro.
Settle down. The little guy. Come on,
bro.
Come on, the little guy. Get out of here. What else? What else do you guys think about the Super Bowl?
I kept getting irritated with my brother because he made a huge deal out of the play when
the face mask,
the face, yeah. And I was like, bro, like the New Orleans Saints entered the chat, like. I'm like, stop! Don't.
The New Orleans Saints. Yeah,
if the call is that big of a deal, maybe your team ain't that good and they shouldn't be in a position where the game is this close. So he kept trying to get like, and then he also didn't understand the like when both the receiver and the DB are getting handsy, that those are offsetting penalties, so they just don't call it. He was like, "Oh, pass interference." I was like, "Yeah, but the receiver also put his hands on him." So I was like, "You can't call that. That's just how football works."
Yeah.
And he was like, and I'm like, "Sammy, come on, like you know basketball, I know football. Like just let me do my thing, you know."
Let me do my thing.
So, yeah, because then my dad showed up too, and they were like, "Oh, they missed all these calls," and I was like, "No, dude, that's how football works. Like, sure, they missed the Jalen call, but then again, like the refs missed that call against like the Saints, and y'all went to a Super Bowl, so it's like." You know,
yeah, and the Rams had all these delayed games versus the Niners that they didn't call either.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, like refs always miss calls. You know, it's part of the game. If it like again, your team should be good enough to where you're not in those situations. If that's the angle you want to take about like these little calls, you know, making a big deal in the game. You know, so I hated OBJ's crying face at the end. I was like, get the camera away from this guy, bro. I don't want to see him. Get a haircut, you know. So,
put it on Matthew Stafford. He deserves it.
Bro. Or Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, any one of those guys, you know. Yeah. Yeah. And then I was sad for Joey B's face when he was walking off the field after that last play.
Yeah.
Like it looked like he was going to cry, and I was just like, oh. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joey B. low-key was not that good in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and so now I've had to endure all the Rams fans online. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I had to skip all of them or just like block their stories or mute their stories. I was like, no.
It's so interesting how they're like celebrating like they've been long time fans.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just like, I remember you from high school, bro. Like you were riding with the, you know, any team, the Colts. Like shout out to Victor. Like where the Colts at, you know?
The Colts.
And then he's on Twitter talking about like the Rams. I'm like, bro, get out of here. Come on, man.
The people I can't stand are the people that are making this about LA. That if you don't root for the Rams, you're against LA. You're like, dude, shut up. Like this isn't a gang. Like we're not in this together. Like,
we gotta rep LA.
Yeah, it's stupid. Rep LA. Come on.
I love pointing out that the the Rams are from like Cleveland originally.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're there's a couple guys where they're like, oh, like the true LA team, and I'm like, the Chargers, like that were actually created in LA and played in LA. The Chargers, yeah, I know people want to run their mouths about them like being from San Diego, but I'm like, the people don't know that. And then I'm like, the Cleveland Rams, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, dude, the Cleveland Rams. Like I had to tell Sammy. Sammy was like, yeah, but. Again, another thing where it's like oh, like you're not even a lifelong fan. Like I can tell you don't even know.
Yeah.
But,
what made me feel good about this whole thing was how pathetic their parade was. That made me feel good.
Oh yeah.
It was just
Did you guys
so
see that tweet from Brady?
Great. What?
Oh yeah.
Mixing water.
The mix in the water. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, it was good. Good stuff.
Donald. Put on a shirt, Aaron. Come on now. Like,
yeah, he's swole.
Yeah, I'm just hating. I'm jealous. What's up?
Hey, you never know. He looks in good shape. He might fight Canelo when he's done.
bro. And again, pro athlete. He's a pro athlete, bro. Look at him.
David would respect that because like,
I
oh,
would
he's a pro
welcome him with
athlete.
open arms in the ring.
Or he'll fight 50 Cent.
Yo.
Nah, hey, come on, dog. Nah. Hey, 50 was looking swole too. I was like, yeah, 50 doesn't skip a meal or upper body day, you know?
Yo, my 50 Cent.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man, good stuff.
Looking super fluffy. I was like, all right, 50, I see you. Damn. Eating that bread.
Oh man, good stuff. Well, that's the pod. A lot of laughs, a lot of good stuff. We'll definitely be back when we have more concrete things and maybe sometime closer to another fight or another cheeseman breaks out. Until then, guys, thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Of course.
Give Stafford a big hug for me, since I'm just a mean bad guy who's just pointing out his resume that's leaving a lot to be desired. And I feel good. You know why? Because Richard Sherman agrees with me. So I think Richard Sherman knows more about football than me.
I'm not going to say Matthew Stafford belongs in the hall. From that point of view, I agree with Richard Sherman. Yeah, sure.
Very well. So we're good. We broke David. We did our job. Until next time, Errol's podcast. See you later.